We've learnt about different ways of classifying species. We've learnt about the 5 kingdoms method, which is quite simple. And then we also learnt about the 7 levels, which is also called taxonomy. And these methods can help us to classify a particular species so that we can know what we're talking about. But what actually is a species? That's the main idea for this video. So at a basic level, a species is a group of living things, a group of organisms that can breed together. And reproduce. And there are a few important ways that we name species. And the reason we need to name them in a certain way is because common names can be really confusing. Common names can be confusing. And here are some examples of confusing common names. You've probably seen these before. They're killer whales. But actually, they're not a whale at all. They're actually a type of dolphin, more closely related to dolphins. So we need to have a scientific name so that the common confusing name doesn't get us into trouble. Here is another example. This is a cuttlefish. You might have found their shells on the beach. But actually, they're not a type of fish. They're what's called a mollusk. And they're actually more closely related to octopuses than a fish. And this thing here is called a silverfish. They often live indoors and they like to eat old clothes and bits of material, but they're not a fish either. So again, the common name is confusing because really they're a type of insect. Silverfish. So if common names can be confusing, we need to come up with scientific names so that we can avoid confusion. So scientific names avoid confusion. And the first thing to remember when we're looking at a scientific name is thinking back to the 7 levels. So the 7 levels of classification, we have kingdom, phylum, class, order, family. And then the 2 smallest levels are genus and species. And the way that scientists make a scientific name is they take the genus and the species level and they write it down just like this. There are a few important details. So firstly, we can see it's always written in italics, which is this slanted writing. The genus name always has a capital letter at the start, and the species name always has a lowercase letter. So these are just the rules that scientists have come up with for writing out a proper scientific name. So there's no confusion, and every scientific name will be written out in this way. Let's look at some examples of some common scientific names. Starting with us, humans. So following the method for scientific names, we'll take the genus and the species name. Our genus is called Homo, and our species is called Sapiens, which means wise. And Homo means man, so our proper scientific name means the wise man. Next we have an Eastern Grey Kangaroo. These kangaroos live all around Eastern Australia. You might see them around Victoria too. Their scientific name is Macropus giganteus. It's made up of the genus and the species name. And here's a plant which is called the common heath, as its common name, but its scientific name is called Epacris impressa.